The first thing you'd have to say about the social welfare cuts in this budget is that there is some good news. They're cutting 475 million off the spending on social protection, but that's a lot less than the 600 or 800 million that was mooted before the budget. And that was a point that the Minister was very quick to point out today. The reason for that is because more people are unemployed, 40,000 more than the original estimates were made. And I think Joan Burton says that she managed to make the argument in Cabinet that people who receive social welfare benefits spend money in the economy and boost spending and consumption in the economy. That's as far as the good news goes. The bad news, I counted, there are about 36 different cuts in this document, some small, some large. About half the savings are being made from 5 different cuts. One is a reduction in the redundancy that's paid to the rebate paid to companies which make employees redundant. The most controversial measure, perhaps the one that jumps out at you originally, is to shorten the length of time in the winter when the winter fuel allowance is paid, which is obviously a critical concern for especially older people, but it's not just paid to older people, it's paid to people on all sorts of social welfare payments. And then there are also cuts to lone parent payments, and also cuts to the child benefit payment that's made in respect of 3rd and 4th children. And the Minister said she's going to standardise the monthly payment there at €140 a month within 2 years. That's likely to be quite controversial because research does show that families with larger number of children tend to be at risk, greater risk of poverty, and that seems to be counterintuitive, and it certainly goes against the kind of advice that the Minister would be getting. So it could be worse, but it's certainly the devil is in the detail. There are, as I say, there are 36 different measures here. I can't see one single measure affecting a huge number of people who are going to turn out in the street like we saw a few years ago when senior citizens came out. But if you're in a position where you're hard pressed to make your ends meet, if you're in a position where you're relying on a particular social benefit, you could well find that you'd be you could be affected by some of these cuts. I think the approach was to go for a large number of small cuts than going for a small number of large cuts, which could have proved controversial. So there are several dozen cuts which are going to affect people, but the complexities of the social welfare system is such that we just don't know at this stage how bad they're going to be. But we're certainly going to see that people who are on, for example, part-time work. Let me explain. For example, somebody who's working 3 days a week and was collecting benefit for the other 3 days of the week, as the system is now, will now find they're only getting paid for 2 out of 5 days. So it's an effective cut of 20% in what they're getting. So that's going to affect people who are subsisting at the bottom of the economy.